The fluorescent lights of the attorney's office hummed, a low, constant sound that felt like it was drilling into my skull. Across the polished oak table, the woman I had been married to for 16 years sat with a practiced, hollow expression. This was Natasha, and yet it wasn't. The woman who was claiming she couldn't remember our life together, our shared accounts, our investments, the dreams we had built and banked on, was a perfect replica of my wife, but her essence had been replaced with that of a complete stranger. It was a deception so profound it had shaken the very ground beneath my feet, making me question if my reality had ever been real at all. This surreal performance had begun 3 months earlier, on a crisp autumn morning. I was reviewing our finances, something I did every quarter, and discovered a gaping hole in our savings account. $60,000 had simply vanished. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. When I confronted Natasha, her reaction was so far from what I had expected that it disarmed me completely. I had braced myself for an argument, for anger, for a defensive explanation. Instead, she just stared at the bank statement, a look of genuine confusion clouding her eyes. "I don't remember moving any money," she said, her voice soft and unsure. "Are you sure this is our account?" I thought she was playing some sort of elaborate joke. This was the same woman who could recall the exact date of our first kiss, the color of the dress she wore on our second date, and every single birthday and anniversary since. But the joke never broke. As the days bled into weeks, her memory issues seemed to escalate. She would forget conversations we'd had the day before. She couldn't remember where she'd placed her keys or important documents. She would look at our wedding photos with a distant, almost sad expression, as if she was trying to connect with a history that wasn't hers. It felt like watching her slowly fade away, a ghost haunting her own life. My heart ached with a terrible mix of fear and guilt. I had initially suspected her of theft, of a secret betrayal. But now, it was clear she was suffering. When I suggested she see a doctor, she agreed immediately, her relief palpable. This should have been my first real clue, but blinded by love and my own sorrow, I saw only an honest woman in need of help. We found a neurologist, an experienced man with a calm, reassuring demeanor. He ran every test imaginable: MRIs, cognitive assessments, extensive blood work. Finally, he sat us down and delivered a diagnosis that felt like a final, shattering blow. He called it dissociative amnesia, a rare condition likely triggered by some severe emotional trauma. She had lost access to most of her memories from the past 5 years. He explained that the mind can protect itself from overwhelming stress by blocking out painful memories, but that in doing so, it sometimes takes good memories along with the bad. Natasha started to cry, her hand in mine, and I felt like the worst husband in the world. Here I was, suspecting her of something malicious, when she was battling a serious medical condition. The missing money no longer mattered. All that mattered was helping my wife, the woman I had built a life with, find her way back to herself. For weeks, my life became a testament to patience and devotion. I showed her old photo albums, narrated the stories of our courtship and our early years of marriage, and tried to help her remember the woman she used to be. She was polite and cooperative, but there was a distance in her eyes, a kind of polite detachment that was colder than any anger could have been. She was listening to a stranger's life story, and I was the one telling it. The warmth we'd shared for 16 years was gone, replaced by a polite, almost formal cooperation. Then came the day she asked for a divorce. She was sitting across from me at our kitchen table, a place where we had shared countless meals and late-night conversations. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I know this isn't fair to you, but I can't pretend to feel something I don't remember feeling. You deserve someone who can love you properly." My heart shattered, a soundless, internal explosion. What could I say? How do you argue with a medical condition? How do you convince someone to love you when they can't remember the foundation of that love? It was a cruelty so complete that it felt impossible to fight. Our divorce proceedings began 2 months later. I had expected it to be straightforward, a quiet division of assets, a respectful parting of ways. But Natasha's attorney had a different plan. A sharp, unsmiling woman, she announced at our first mediation session that Natasha, due to her medical condition, could not accurately recall the financial agreements of our marriage. They demanded a full disclosure of all assets and argued she was entitled to significant support given her current cognitive limitations. I stared at Natasha, who sat beside her attorney looking as confused and helpless as she had that first day. This was the same woman who had handled our taxes with meticulous precision, who had negotiated our mortgage with a firm hand, who had managed our investment portfolio better than most financial advisors. Now she was claiming she couldn't remember basic facts about our finances. "I'm so sorry," she said, meeting my gaze with a misty-eyed look. "I wish I could remember more, but everything from the past few years is just gone." The demands from her attorney escalated with each session. She argued that because Natasha had no memory of contributing to our joint investments, she couldn't be expected to split them fairly. They wanted the house, 70% of our savings, and a substantial monthly alimony payment. My attorney was furious. "This is a legal sham," he told me privately. "They're using her condition to manipulate the system. But how do you prove someone is faking amnesia? It's not like there's a test for it." He was right. The diagnosis was legitimate, based on a doctor's professional opinion and the symptoms she presented. If she was acting, she was doing it so convincingly that she had fooled a seasoned neurologist. But something about her behavior, little inconsistencies in her performance, nagged at me. I made a decision that would change everything. I installed a small security camera in our living room. My intention was just to put my mind at ease, to prove to myself that my suspicions were unfounded. What I discovered over the next 2 weeks destroyed every shred of trust I had left. The first video showed her on the phone, discussing investment strategies with the ease and expertise of a seasoned financial advisor. She knew every detail about our portfolio, every stock we owned, every account balanced down to the penny. This was not the confused, memory-impaired woman who had sat across from me in mediation sessions. The second recording was even more damning. She was on her laptop, accessing bank accounts I didn't even know existed. She was moving money around with a practiced precision, the mouse clicks a cold, calculated rhythm. At one point, a laugh escaped her lips, a cold, calculated sound I'd never heard from her before. She was planning this. But the third recording was what sealed her fate. I watched her coaching herself in the mirror, practicing her confused expressions, rehearsing her "I don't remember" responses. It was a meticulous, chilling performance. "Remember," she said to her reflection, her voice a calm, instructional tone. "Trauma can cause memory gaps. Be consistent about the 5-year timeline. Don't give too many details about anything after 2019. I sat in my home office staring at the footage, feeling like I was watching a stranger wear my wife's face. This wasn't the woman I'd married. This was someone capable of elaborate, heartless deception. The missing $60,000 finally made sense. In one of the recordings, I watched her transfer it to a separate account, one she'd opened under her maiden name 6 months before she ever claimed to have memory problems. She had been planning this long before the charade began. My attorney was ecstatic. "This changes everything," he said, his voice filled with a righteous anger that I couldn't feel. "We can prove fraud, perjury, manipulation of medical professionals. She won't just lose the divorce case, she could face criminal charges." I should have felt vindicated, but instead I felt empty. The woman I had loved for 16 years had never existed. She had been replaced by someone capable of gaslighting me so thoroughly that I had questioned my own sanity. The final court session was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in November. Natasha arrived with her attorney, wearing the same confused, vulnerable expression she had perfected over months. She took the stand and delivered her rehearsed testimony, playing the victim so convincingly that I almost believed her myself. When it was our turn to present evidence, my attorney stood with a tablet in his hand. "Your Honor, We'd like to present surveillance footage that directly contradicts the defendant's claims of amnesia. The color drained from Natasha's face, but she maintained her confused expression. Her attorney objected, claiming the footage was obtained without consent, but the judge allowed it as evidence of potential fraud. We played the videos in order. The first, Natasha discussing our investment portfolio with cold competence. The second, her accessing hidden bank accounts with practiced ease. The third, her rehearsing her testimony in the mirror, a masterclass in deception. By the time the last video finished, Natasha had stopped pretending. The mask had finally slipped. "Mrs. Morrison," the judge said sternly, "do you have any explanation for this footage?" For a moment, she just sat there in silence. Then a new expression came over her face. The vulnerable confusion was gone, replaced by something harder and more calculating. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, too, clearer, more confident, devoid of the soft, bewildered tones she'd used for months. "I want to change my testimony," she said. Her attorney tried to intercede, but Natasha continued. "I remember everything. I've remembered everything all along." She looked directly at me. "I needed a way out of this marriage, and I thought this would be easier than telling the truth." And just like that, the truth was out. The truth was that she had fallen out of love with me 3 years ago, but had stayed because it was comfortable. The truth was that when she decided she wanted out, she needed a strategy that would give her the best possible settlement. She had been planning my destruction for months. The judge found her in contempt of court and referred the case for criminal prosecution. Our marriage was dissolved with a standard 50-50 split of assets, plus penalties for her fraudulent behavior. She lost the house, her claim to alimony, and gained a criminal record. I should have felt victorious, but victory felt hollow. 16 years of marriage, reduced to courtroom evidence and legal precedent. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself, it was realizing how long she'd been planning it. How many nights had she lain next to me already plotting her escape? How many times had she said, "I love you," while designing my destruction? These days, I am rebuilding my life with a careful, cautious optimism. I have learned that trust isn't just given. It is earned through consistent actions over time. I've learned that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones most capable of devastating betrayal. But I've also learned that truth has a way of surfacing, even when it's buried under months of carefully constructed lies. Sometimes justice comes through legal proceedings, and sometimes it comes through the simple satisfaction of knowing that deception eventually reveals itself for what it is.